What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Oak Tree Football. The NFL is just about to start, and I am so excited. And today, finally, I will be making my playoff predictions and, of course, my Super Bowl prediction. Today, I'll be predicting who I think will be the champions of the NFL this season. So I'll go through each conference with my conference champion, and then I'll do the Super Bowl. So starting with the AFC. I'll start by giving the seeds. Starting at the 7th seed, I actually have the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I think the Raiders are going to be pretty good this year. They were pretty close to making the playoffs last year, and I think they definitely got better this offseason. I know this is a bit of a dark horse pick, but I still think they can make the playoffs with that new 7 spot, but just barely making it in. At number 6, I have the Denver Broncos. I think the Broncos are going to get a lot better this year. They were very close to making the playoffs last year, and I definitely think they got better. They are losing Von Miller for the year, which is going to hurt, but they're getting back Bradley Chubb. Drew Lock is going to start the whole season, most likely. They got a strong running back group with Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, and they do have a pretty strong defense overall. I think the Broncos are definitely going to improve this year, and I think they'll be able to be just about good enough to make it into the playoffs. Now, the final wild card team I have is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Steelers haven't made the playoffs for the past 2 seasons, but I think that changes this year. I think they have a top 5 defense in the NFL. Their defense is really incredible. And their offense, I don't think will be great, but I think it will be good enough to get them into the playoffs. Ben Roethlisberger's coming back this year. I think Juju Smith-Schuster can bounce back this year. So I think the Steelers team will get better this year, and I think they will be able to make it into the playoffs as the 5 seed. At the 4 seed, I have the Tennessee Titans. The Titans, and they are in a weaker division in my opinion. Not the strongest division overall, and I think they should be able to top it with Derrick Henry leading the way. Derrick Henry is an incredible runner, should have a great season overall. Ryan Tannehill can be a solid quarterback. A.J. Brown should take a good step up in his second season as the wide receiver for the Titans. So I think this Titans team is really good around, and they recently signed Jadeveon Clowney, which is going to be big for them. And I think they should definitely make the playoffs, either as the division winner or as a wild card. Moving on to the 3 seed. At the 3 seed, I have the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills should easily top their division. Now that Tom Brady and a few other players have left the Patriots, I think the Bills are the clear favorite, and I think the Bills are a very good team overall, to be honest. Getting Stephon Diggs, a true number 1 receiver for Josh Allen, that was huge for them. And they definitely got better this offseason, and I think potentially they can make a playoff run. I have them being in the 3 seed. Next up, the 2 seed, I have the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions. I think the Chiefs are really good, and I was really close to putting them as the 1 seed. I just think there'll be one team that's better, which I'll talk about in a second. But the Chiefs, they definitely got better this offseason, in my opinion. I mean, they were incredible last year. I mean, Mahomes is arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. Tyreek Hill is a great deep threat. Travis Kelce is probably the best tight end in the NFL, depending on who you ask. Some might say George Kittle. Their defense is solid, and they now added Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which was a fantastic draft pick. The Chiefs are going to be good this year. They are going to be good, and I think they will finish as the 2 seed in the AFC and winning the AFC, being the number 1 seed. I have the Baltimore Ravens, just like last year. I think the Ravens are going to be incredible again this year. We'll have to see if they're going to do good in the playoffs this season because they haven't really done that yet. But I think Lamar Jackson is an incredible quarterback. This team has a fantastic offense and a fantastic defense. I think the Ravens should finish top of the AFC. So now, going through game by game and making my predictions, starting with number 7 versus number 2. That is the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. I don't see this being much of a close game, to be honest. I see the Chiefs just getting a huge win. The Chiefs are much better than the Raiders. And this game is in Kansas City. Maybe the Raiders can get a few points, maybe 10 points. But the Chiefs should absolutely dominate this game. And they should get a huge win. Definitely have the Chiefs. Moving on. Next up is the Buffalo Bills versus the Denver Broncos. Now, this is a more even game, 3 versus number 6. This is a more even game. It's going to be in Buffalo if it was to happen. I think this game could go either way. I think the Bills are going to be good this year, but I definitely think the Broncos will get a lot better. But we'll have to see how Drew Lock does in the playoffs. I mean, we haven't seen him in the playoffs yet, and we've only seen 1 game of Josh Allen in the playoffs, which he lost. He had a big lead, but lost to the Texans. But this time around, I think he'll win. I think the Bills are just a bit better than the Broncos. This game is going to be in Buffalo. I think the Bills will be able to move on. And then the final game of Wild Card Weekend for the AFC is the Tennessee Titans taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this is definitely the most even game. Both these teams are really solid. I see this being a low-scoring game. Both teams have solid defenses. Pittsburgh has a great defense. But the Titans have a really good offense. And, Derrick Henry is probably going to be key in this game. This is going to be a very interesting game if it was to happen. And it would be close, definitely potentially overtime. But I think the Titans will just be able to squeak through. I think it would be close. But I have the Titans moving on. So the 4 teams I have moving on are the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, the Tennessee Titans, and of course the Baltimore Ravens get their bye. So the first game is Kansas City Chiefs versus Buffalo Bills. This would be an interesting game in my opinion, because I think both these teams are good. Mahomes, both quarterbacks in this game have a very good arm talent. I think that Josh Allen's going to improve this year, especially with Stephon Diggs coming in at wide receiver. So I think this could be, a pretty interesting game, maybe more interesting than you might think. But I think the Chiefs would win. I mean, this game's going to be in Kansas City. The Chiefs are the better team overall, and I think the Chiefs would be able to pull out the win. But it could be a close game, could be an interesting game overall. Now, the second game is the Baltimore Ravens versus the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Titans upset the Ravens in the playoffs last year. The 1 seed versus 6 seed, the Titans won in Baltimore. And that could happen again, to be honest. I think this is going to be a very close game, especially now with the Titans signing Jadeveon Clowney. But this game really could go either way, in my opinion. I think the Ravens are the better team overall, but that doesn't necessarily mean they will win. But I do have the Ravens winning because I think they strengthened their defense this season, and I think that's what really lost in that game. Obviously, their offense wasn't great either, but I think their offense, their offense could improve if they play again. So I'm going to say the Ravens squeak through, but I see it being a close game. I see it being an interesting game and a pretty fun game to watch. Now, the final game, this game would be a fantastic championship game. Kansas City Chiefs versus Baltimore Ravens. This game has been played, Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes, has been played twice so far. Well, I believe Lamar Jackson didn't play the full game against the Chiefs his first time, but for the most part, this game has been played twice. Chiefs won both those times. Will that change this time? It's going to be interesting. This is going to be a really, really interesting game. The Chiefs are the 2 seed. This game is in Baltimore, but Mahomes has been the better playoff quarterback. Jackson hasn't been a very good playoff quarterback, and I think that's what's going to eventually decide this game. I think just because of the more playoff experience for Mahomes, I think Mahomes and the Chiefs will be able to pull through and win this game. No doubt this would be an extremely entertaining game, definitely one of the better games of the season, but I think the Kansas City Chiefs would win and move on to the Super Bowl for the second year in a row. Now moving on to the NFC. Starting with the seeding once again, at the 7th seed I have the Dallas Cowboys. Without a doubt, the Dallas Cowboys improved this offseason, and I am an Eagles fan. So I don't really like saying that, but they definitely did improve. And I think they should make a playoff spot, especially with 7 teams in the playoffs. Dak Prescott's a really solid quarterback. He hasn't, completed his full potential yet. If he can improve, that's going to be really good for him. Ezekiel Elliott's a great running back. The receiving group is incredible. They added CeeDee Lamb there, Michael Gallup, and Amari Cooper already. Great receiving group. Pretty good defense as well. So I think the Cowboys should be a really good team this year and should make it into the playoffs. I think that's the 7th seed. 6th I have the 49ers. Some people may be a bit surprised by this. I still think the 49ers are going to be a great team this year. I know this may seem a little low. I still think they're going to be a really, really good team. I have them finishing 12-4. But I have another team above them as the wild card, and I don't think they'll win the division. I still think the 49ers are going to be an incredible team this year, without a doubt. I still think they'll be good. I just think they're going to take a little step back because I think they got weaker this offseason. But the 49ers are going to be in the playoffs. I don't really see any doubt. I mean, the Rams missed the playoffs after losing the Super Bowl. I just don't see that happening this time around. I think the 49ers are one of the better teams in the NFL. And even though I have them at number 6, that's really just because they're in a tough conference and in a tough division. So I think the 49ers should definitely make it to the playoffs. Moving on to number 5, I have the Arizona Cardinals. Some people may not agree with this one, but I really like the Cardinals this year. I just think they're going to be really good. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury is a really good coach in my opinion, or he can be. Kyler Murray, I think, will take a really, really big step up. They have a solid running back group. They have a really good receiving group with arguably a top 5 receiver of all time and arguably a top 5 receiver in the NFL right now in DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald, obviously. So very good on offense, in my opinion. And their defense is pretty strong as well. Budda Baker is a really good safety. They have some good cornerbacks, great linebacking group, some good defensive ends as well. So I think the Cardinals will be good. I don't think they'll be good enough to win the division, but I have them being just about good enough to finish 5th in the NFC. At number 4, I have the Vikings, of course, in the NFC North. I think the North is going to be the worst division in football this year. So I think the Vikings will barely win this division by 1 game over the Bears and the Packers. I don't think it's going to be, the best the best season for the Vikings, but still in a weak division. I have them moving on to the playoffs. As a 3 seed, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, some people don't even think the Eagles will make the playoffs. I definitely think the Eagles will make the playoffs. I think they have a strong team this year. Some people may not agree with me that they'll be number 3, and I understand that. Some people think the Cowboys are better. But really, the only reason I have number 3 is the Cowboys usually struggle a lot. Like last season, they weren't great. They don't always struggle, but last season they weren't great. And I kind of see that happening again this year. Not for the entire season, but for some of it. And I think the Eagles are better this year than they were last year. It just depends how many injuries they have, because the Eagles are going to have injuries. They always do. But I think the Eagles will be able to get that 3 seed in a pretty weak, or not a week, but just above the Minnesota Vikings and pretty weak NFC North. Moving on to the number 2 seed, I have the New Orleans Saints. I think the Saints are a really good team this year. A lot of people are saying the Buccaneers will win this division. I just don't see that. I think the Saints are one of the best teams in football. I think they should top this division. Drew Brees is getting older, but he's still a really good player. I think Alvin Kamara could play like an Offensive Player of the Year candidate this year. Michael Thomas obviously could play like an Offensive Player of the Year candidate. They signed Emmanuel Sanders, which is a great signing. Their defense is good with Cameron Jordan and Marshall and Lattimore. This is just a really good Saints team overall, and I think they should finish, somewhere between the 1 and the 3 seed this year and winning the NFC, the number 1 seed. I have the Seattle Seahawks. I just think the Seahawks are a really, really good team this year. I mean, they got better this offseason. I think they were really good last year, and I think, the 49ers got worse while they got better. Trading for Jamal Adams was just incredible. Jamal Adams is an incredible player. They strengthened their wide receiver position. They got some veterans to help out. I just think this Seahawks team is going to be really good this year. And though I don't think they had the best draft overall, I still think they'll be good enough to make it to the playoffs, and I have them being the number 1 seed in the NFC. So now I'm going to go through and predict the games, starting with the 2 versus 7, the Saints versus the Cowboys in New Orleans. Now, I think this game will be closer than the 2 versus 7 in the AFC, because I think the Saints and the Cowboys are, closer in talent than the Chiefs and the Raiders are. So I see this being a close game, but I definitely think the Saints will win. I think the Saints are definitely the better team. This game would be in New Orleans. I mean, the Cowboys could always give an upset, but I definitely think the Saints are the better team. And this would be a close game in my opinion, but I'd see the Saints as the better overall team. I have the Saints moving on to the next round. Next up, you got the Eagles versus the 49ers. Now, this is a very interesting game because, of course, the 49ers made the Super Bowl last year. The Eagles won the Super Bowl back in 2017. The Eagles normally are pretty good in the playoffs. Last year, they weren't great, but normally they are. It just depends. Will Carson Wentz be able to stay healthy? Because he's never been able to stay healthy in the playoffs. And if he doesn't, you're probably going to get, I don't know, whoever's going to be playing quarterback for them in that case. We'll just have to see. It could be Josh McCown because they recently picked him up again. But we'll have to see if Carson Wentz isn't playing. If Wentz is playing, I think the Eagles have a really good shot at winning this game. But they're bound to be missing someone in this game. And I think the 49ers have a really good team. They have a solid defense. I think they'll be able to lock down the Eagles. And I am an Eagles fan, so I would be rooting for the Eagles in this game. But to be honest, I think the 49ers would be the better team. I see the 49ers moving on. Now, the final game is the Vikings versus the Cardinals. Now, this game I think could go either way. This game is in Minnesota, but I do think that the Cardinals are the better team. I don't think it would be the best game overall. I think it would just be, I think it would be close, but maybe not too high scoring. I see the Cardinals moving on barely. It could be a close game, but I think the Cardinals are good enough. I really like the Cardinals this year. We'll just have to see, can Kyler Murray perform in the playoffs? Obviously, if the Cardinals make the playoffs, can Kyler Murray perform in the playoffs or will he struggle? We'll just have to see, but I do have the Cardinals moving on. So the 4 teams that are left are the New Orleans Saints, the San Francisco 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Arizona Cardinals. The first game is the New Orleans Saints taking on the Arizona Cardinals, the 2 versus the 5. This would be an interesting game in my opinion. I think the Saints are the better team. This game is in New Orleans, but I think the Cardinals could, give a good upset here, especially with an aging Drew Brees. Potentially his last chance at the Super Bowl because he could retire after the season. That's a very likely possibility. I think this would be an interesting game, but I think the Saints would be able to pull through. I think the Saints are the better team. This game would be in New Orleans, like I said. I really like the Saints this year. I think Kamara and Thomas and Sanders will be able to, beat the Cardinals. I think they'll be able to beat their secondary because I would choose the Saints receiving group over the Cardinals secondary. And the Saints have had some struggles in the past in the playoffs, but I think they will be able to move on here. And the next game is the Seattle Seahawks versus San Francisco 49ers. This would be a great game. To be in the playoffs, this would be a fantastic game. It was a fantastic game when we saw it happen twice last year. I think it'll be a great game again when we see it happen twice this year. But this is a hard game to predict. It could go either way. Obviously, the Seahawks, in my opinion, would be great. Are going to be great this season. I think Russell Wilson can be really, really good. I have winning MVP if you didn't see my award prediction video. I think they have a good receiving group, very good receivers. Their defense is good as well. They signed Jamal Adams. They have some good cornerbacks, solid linebackers with Bobby Wagner as well. I just think the Seahawks team is really good, but this 49ers team is arguably just as good. I'm not so sure about Garoppolo, but the rest of this, for the most part, this 49ers team is really good, average. Most of them are above average. But who would win? I would say the Seahawks. And the main reason why is they have a bye week. They have a bye week, which gives them a break. The 49ers are going to be coming off a tough game against the Eagles. I think it'll be close. And I think the Niners are just going to be tired out playing in Seattle. It's tough to play in Seattle as well. We'll just have to see if they're playing or if there are fans at this point yet. But I think the Seahawks would barely be able to move on. But I think it would be a close game. But I have the Seahawks moving on. And the NFC Championship with the Super Bowl on the line, I have the New Orleans Saints taking on the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. Now, in my opinion, there is a clear favorite in this game. I really like the Saints as a team. I think they'll be good this year. But the Saints just every year just have struggles in the playoffs, and they aren't able to get there. And this will be a great game. It's in Seattle. I think Seattle is just a fantastic team, and so are the Saints, though. This would be an incredibly tough game to predict. It would be a great game to watch. But I'm going to say the Seahawks move on. I just think the Seahawks are the better team overall. I think Russell Wilson beats Drew Brees because Drew Brees is just getting up there in age. I know he's not as good as he used to be. He still is a great player, don't get me wrong, but he's just not as good as he was, and Russell Wilson is still an elite quarterback in the league. I see the Seahawks moving on, which means the Super Bowl is the 2-seeded Kansas City Chiefs taking on the number 1-seeded Seattle Seahawks. This would be a fantastic Super Bowl, in my opinion. The two best quarterbacks in the league, Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes, going at it. Two solid running back groups for the Seahawks and the Chiefs, going at it. Two really solid wide receiving groups as well, with Tyler Lockett for the Seahawks headlining it, and then some other guys like DK Metcalf there as well. And then you got Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins on the Chiefs. Tight ends, Kansas City definitely wins the tight end battle with Travis Kelce. But on defense, both these teams are good. Both have really good safeties. Chiefs have Tyrann Mathieu. Seahawks have Jamal Adams. Both have good secondaries, good linebacking groups. This would be an incredible game, and I would see it being a pretty high-scoring game as well. And I would love to see this be the Super Bowl. I would love to watch this, not just because, it's my prediction, but this would just be a great game to watch. But winning the Super Bowl, in my opinion, I have the Seattle Seahawks. I have the Seattle Seahawks winning the Super Bowl this year. I just think the Seahawks are going to be a really, really good team. I don't know what it is, but they were really good last year, and I think they got better this offseason. I just think Russell Wilson's going to play really, really well. And, I could be wrong with this because maybe a lot of the reason Seahawks are so good is because they have fans, but without fans and without the 12th man, it could be a lot tougher. But I just see the Seahawks being an incredible team, and I think they edge out the Chiefs and win the Super Bowl this year. So there are my playoff predictions for the season. The Chiefs and the Seahawks mean the Super Bowl, and I have the Seahawks winning. Anyway, if you guys did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you are new around here, feel free to subscribe for more NFL and college football content. What are your guys' playoff predictions? Tell me in the comment section below. Do you agree that the Seahawks will win? Do you think someone else like the Chiefs, the Ravens, the 49ers will win? Just tell me in the comment section below. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.